Good morning, Kenya. Rise and shine to the morning momentum. Your daily dose of a comprehensive rundown of the top stories making the headlines, today being the 25th day of April 2025. This is a daily compendium of local and international news, human interest stories, current affairs, and expert opinion. My name is Alphonce Ouma. The hashtag on X is the morning momentum at Younib Media TV at Alphonse Albakwekwe. Let's take a look at the top stories on the paper this morning. On the Daily Nation, on the front page, Duale paves the way for Shah tycoons to pocket billions. Now, Health CS Aden Duale has gazetted regulations enabling a Safaricom-led consortium to start receiving monthly payments for its 104 billion shillings investment in a new digital health system, despite an ongoing court case seeking to annul the deal. The consortium was set to receive 500 million shillings monthly starting February this year. That story is beefed up for you on page 4 and page 5. On page 2 and 3,000 line up to view Pope's body ahead of the funeral tomorrow. About 2,500 people per hour have been filing past the body of Pope Francis as it lies in state at the St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican, with emerging concerns over some who choose to take selfies or shoot content. The viewing began at 11 a.m. local time on Wednesday and was expected to end at midnight. On page 7 this morning, Kwame, why IMF debt sums for Kenya did not add up. It turns out that the debt projections made for 2024 were wrong on a big scale. That story is beefed up for you on page 7. Also on page 6 and page 7 this morning, Kenya agrees to multi-way funding plan for SGR extension. Now, Kenya yesterday appeared to agree to China's preconditions to fund a railway line extension to the border with Uganda. The details emerged after President William Ruto met his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in Beijing for bilateral talks as part of the Kenya leader's state visit to China. That story is on page 6 and page 7. Let's get up close and candid. On page 2, gospel to be read at Francis' funeral, similar to that used for John Paul II. Now, passage from the Gospel of John recounts Jesus asking Peter 3 times if he loved him, followed by the instruction, follow me. St. Peter is a foundational figure in Roman Catholic traditional, and the Vatican considers him the first pope. Why Pope Francis is a pontiff of many fasts is what is beefed up for you on page 2. So each year of the 266 popes, each of the 266 popes who have served the church since St. Peter has his own unique story, 83 of them have been canonized and are included in the official list of saints. A few left behind questionable reputations, but many have made a profoundly positive impact of the church and the world. The legacy of Pope Francis is assured in the annals of the church history. He is a pontiff of many fasts. Now, due to the overwhelming number of Pope people wishing to pay their final respects, the basilica remained open until 5:30 a.m. on a Thursday. That story is beefed up for you on page 2 and page 3 of The Nation this morning. On page 4, Duale paves way for Shah tycoons to pocket billions. Now, regulations recognize components of the system being built by the Safaricom consortium, such as trees, telemedicine, and health information. The health minister publishes regulations paving the way for Safaricom-led consortium to start receiving monthly payments of 104 billion shillings investment in a digital health system. At a glance, what Omtata petition says, because this is still a legal hurdle in the judicial system, in September 2024, Busia Senator Okiya Omtata filed a petition challenging the legality of both SHIF and the award of the contract to the Safaricom consortium. Mr. Omtata gazed that the system will remain the intellectual property of the Safaricom consortium after 104 billion shillings investment is recouped. He adds that the DHA was the agency that should have procured the system. However, the consortium says the procurement process was followed and the then Attorney General, Justin Muturi, gave the project green light. That story is beefed up for you on page 4. Let's move on and take a look at page 6. Kenya agrees to multi-way funding model for the SGR extension to Malaba. Deal involves exclusive Chinese contracting to operate a railway, and in a way the funding has been framed as part public-private partnership and part concessional lending to be secured by levies. Kenya yesterday appeared to agree to China's preconditions to fund a railway line extension to the border with Uganda. The details emerged after President William Ruto met his China colleague Xi Jinping in Beijing for bilateral talks as part of the Kenyan leader's state visit to China. The deal and its fine print was omitted from official dispatches shared with the media after the meetings. That story is on page 6. Among the signed deals, there are a couple of them. Number one is the MOU on cooperation in the railway sector, where there will be a review of laws, regulations, and policies, as well as the development of railway technical and operation standards. Number two is the framework agreement on economic partnership for shared development, which constitutes collaboration on sustainable development of manufacturing, agriculture, and improving Kenya's competitiveness in the global market. The third one is Memorandum of Understanding on Blue Economy, Fisheries, and Maritime Affairs Cooperation. Number 4 is MOU on Scientific and Technological Cooperation. Number 5 is Cooperation Plan on jointly promoting the Belt and Road Initiative, where both countries will strengthen cooperation in infrastructure, trade and investment, digital economy, finance, education, talent cultivation, cultural tourism, and people-people exchanges. Also, the list continues all the way to number 14. There's also another one on MOU and electronic commerce that will see the enhancement of information exchanges on e-commerce laws and regulations. You want to catch up with that on page 7. Also on page 7 this morning, IMF's 2024 debt sums for Kenya did not add up, but Treasury bosses let it slide. 73% is the public debt for end 2024 projection in the first quarter of 2024. So macroeconomic and therefore political developments in Kenya in 2024 were dominated by IMF projections for government debt. When in mid-2024, IMF staff projected that public debt was rising, they swooped on Nairobi and demanded policy corrective action, culminating in the finance bill protests and political realignments. But it turns out, as confirmed by the IMF World Economic Outlook issued this week, that the debt projections made for 2024 were wrong on a big scale. That story is beefed up for you on page 7. Let's take a look at page 10. State wields Official Secrets Act to shield classified disclosures. Now, disclosure of government information can attract a prison term of up to 14 years. The move appears aimed at silencing dissenters who have exposed alleged wrongdoings within the government. That story is beefed up for you on page 10. We move on to page 12. Why empowerment of women needs year-round advocacy. Now, gender equality is the foundation of a fair and just society where access to rights and opportunities is unaffected by gender. Yet, despite its importance, the conservation around gender equality often peaks during specific moments like International Women's Day, only to fade into the background once the celebrations are over. While these moments are crucial for raising awareness, they are not enough to drive lasting change. At the same time, on page 12, Judge, divorce must go through a court. Court insists marriages must be protected, and petitioners said grounds stipulated are embarrassing to couples. A judge has dismissed petition calling for couples to divorce without going through courts. The petition filed by couple attorneys and consultancy wanted Justice Lawrence Mugambi to declare that a couple could dissolve marriage through mutual consent without fulfilling any of the grounds for divorce stipulated in the Marriage Act of 2014. Let's move on and take a look at page 14. Police let us down, family says after 9 killed in arson attack. Now, man, his wife and 7 children were killed after they were locked in and their house set on fire. Brother to man killed in the fire says the police repeatedly failed to reinforce eviction orders issued by the courts. Had police in Sigomre and Ugunja sub-counties acted on an eviction order in a land dispute case, the attack that wiped out 9 members of a family in Sierra County could have been averted, a relative has said. Mr. Leonard Opondo, the younger brother of Mr. Ouma Opondo, who was burned to death alongside his wife and 7 children on Tuesday, blamed delaying tactics by the police in executing the court order for the tragedy. Now, also on page 14, a son of dead Rongo church follower reveals details of life in the compound. Now, as police investigations into the operations of Malchio St. Joseph Mission of Messiah in Africa Church continue, new testimony from the son of dead follower reveals questionable doctrines. Police this week rescued 57 people, including children from the church in Opapo village in Migori County. Miss Francis Odongo Asewe, the eldest son of the late Eli Odoyo, recalls being just 8 years old when his father took him and his siblings to the church. You want to catch up with more on those questionable doctrines of Messiah Africa Church on page 14. On page 16 this morning, do mosquitoes often bite you? Scientists blame beer and dressing. Humans often unknowingly make themselves irresistible targets for mosquitoes. Mosquitoes have developed a strong preference for human blood over animals. You want to catch up with that science on page 16. On page 18 this morning, open secret, I owned up to Sharon's pregnancy and planned to support her, says Obado. Obado tells the court that his wife and county staff knew about his relationship with Sharon. Former Migori County Governor and 2 others are charged with the murder of Rongo University students. Now, the former governor has told the court trying him for the murder of Rongo University student that he had pledged to support her after learning she was pregnant with his child. Mr. Obado told Justice Cecilia Githua that he congratulated Sharon Otieno when she told him that she was pregnant with his child. In the dock for the second day yesterday, he dismissed the prosecution's allegation that he was uncomfortable with Sharon due to the pregnancy. Let's shift gears and take a look at the expert opinion, why we must embrace AI, especially so in governance. Now, while we hold endless conferences and ribbon-cutting ceremonies for digital hubs, our systems are still bleeding from outdated processes and analog thinking. That story is beefed up for you on page 19. Let's move on and take a look at more stories on the nation this morning. That is the county news, and we start with Bomet County. Once a maize farmer, Grace Mutai, has discovered a fortune in avocados. That story is on page 28 for you. Let's go to Turkana County. Farming thrives in villages once ravaged by banditry. Peace credited to drones being used in the operation to combat banditry. Now, Turkana and West Pokot developed governments told initiate to promote sports as a way of curbing banditry. That story is beefed up for you on page 25. In Nairobi, student found dead on campus. Now, the University of Nairobi was thrown in mourning following the discovery of the body of a third-year medicine student at a pool on Tuesday. Dennis Kamunya had posted farewell notes on social media before his death. In Kajiado County, Lenku to pay ex-staff 8 million shillings. The High Court has ordered Kajiado Governor Joseph Ole Lenku and Finance Executive Elias Kisota to pay former county executive member Jacqueline Coin 8 million shillings or be sent to prison for 6 months. The order was given following an application by Ms. Coin urging the court to compel Mr. Lenku and Mr. Kisota to pay 8,191,592 awarded by lower court. Ms. Coin's dismissal was found to have been unlawful. That story is beefed up for you on page 25. Also, MPs to table report on tribes not represented in state jobs. A parliamentary team is expected to table a report on the status of employment by ethnicity in the public service, including communities not represented. The National Assembly Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities will release the report on communities whose members were not hired, those promoted, and level of employment in the ministries, departments, and state agencies in the 2022-2023 and 2023-2024 financial years. Now, we move on and take a look at more county news. In Bomet, green gold, maize farmer finds fortune in avocados. Compared to maize, avocado farming has fewer risks and better returns. Ms. Mutai has abandoned cereal farming in favor of the more rewarding fruit. 30,000 shillings is the amount Ms. Mutai earned from a single harvest, and with improved techniques, she expects even better returns. Now we shift gears into the international scene. We start with the Ukraine war. Russia, Trump accused Kyiv of wrecking peace. Now, Kellogg says there were positive talks in London with Zelensky's chief of staff. Since taking office in January, Trump has appended U.S. policy towards Ukraine. Russia accused Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday of wrecking diplomacy aimed at reaching a peace deal after he refused to agree to recognize Russia's annexation of Crimea. That story is beefed up for you on page 29. Let's take a look at business news now. New company registrations up amid business optimism. Firms have been reporting improvement in sales. The number of firms between January and March 2025 is highest in one quarter. 4.6% is the rise in number of companies registered in the quarter. That story is beefed up for you on page 30. Briefly, in the aviation sector, Air France and KLM picks new Africa regional head. Now, Joris Holtus has been appointed Air France KLM's manager for East Africa and Southern Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana, succeeding Maurice van der Ham, who held the position for the past 3 years. In the insurance sector, Jubilee to merge off its units in Ugandan market. Jubilee Insurance's parent firm is planning to merge 2 of its 3 subsidiaries in Uganda in a bid to cut costs. To streamline operations and sharpen the firm's competitive edge. The Nairobi-based insurer said in an ad yesterday its board has approved amalgamation of the 2 units that have been separately offering health and life insurance. Now we take a look at sports news on the Standard this morning. We start with athletics. Ethiopian flavor in Eldoret City Marathon. Now the organizers make final touches to course for Eldoret race. 30-man contingent from Addis Ababa is expected in Eldoret ahead of Sunday's race. In the golf sector, Amateur Championship Series heads to Kitale. El-Kal golf action resumes this weekend with Trans Nzoia Open, the 8th leg in the 2025 Kenya Amateur Golf Championship Series at the Par 73 Kitale Golf Club course. However, the 54-hole event, which counts towards both the NCBA Bank-sponsored series, Order of Merit, and World Amateur Golf Ranking, has attracted a small field of 54 players, probably due to the small prize fund of 174,000 shillings compared to most events in the KAGC series which usually offer 500,000 and over. Now, on page 38 this morning, Obingo was days short of witnessing ambitious dreams for Kenya's football. Local administrator pay glowing tribute to former official who straddled cricket and football. Former FKF Secretary General who died of cardiac arrest while on a motorcycle at the age of 76 will be buried this Saturday in Mumias. Also on FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifiers, Nigeria and Zambia in action this afternoon. Junior starlets fight for dear life against Cameroon. So Kenyan girls are under pressure to overturn 1-0 deficit from the first leg today in Yaoundé. You want to catch up with that on page 39. Let's take a look at the cover page of the Daily Nation. Now, states U-turn, why maths will now be compulsory for senior school students. Decision marks a notable shift from earlier curriculum framework and learners in social sciences, arts, sports to take tailored mathematics. The government has made an about-turn and announced that all learners in senior school will now study mathematics regardless of the pathway they choose to pursue. Education CS Julius Ogamba said mathematics will be made compulsory across all the 3 senior school pathways under the competence-based curriculum. Also on the cover page this morning, PS Omolo, no need to worry, will implement most of Maraga reforms. The government has called on police, prison and National Youth Service officers to remain calm, assuring them that a recent court ruling declaring the Maraga Task Force team, which proposed far-reaching changes in the service, unconstitutional, poses no threat to the ongoing reforms in the National Police Service. Internal Security and National Administration Principal Secretary Dr. Raymond Omolo spoke after a meeting with the National Steering Committee tasked with overseeing the implementation of the proposed reforms yesterday morning. So with that story of PS Raymond Omolo, we come to the tail end of the morning momentum. Thank you so much for choosing to stay with us and for choosing to watch the best youth television network in East and Central Africa, Younib TV. The program on air has been the morning momentum. I have been your host, Alphonce Ouma. Our heartfelt gratitude also goes to all those who made this broadcast a success. Behind the lens, Elias Muchina, and the chief controller this morning has been Peninah Wachera. See you on Monday, same time, same place. Until then, do have a beautiful weekend.
Younib.